I wanted to ask you, like, what is, in your experience, what is the most important component in this program?
Well, if we take our recent experience in Kerala into consideration, or experiences elsewhere, I think the most important ingredient of successful emergency response is coordination. And coordination doesn't happen really in the moment of disaster. You need to create coordination mechanisms before the disaster. And when I say coordination, why do we need to coordinate first aid for cultural heritage? It's very simple. You see, if heritage is in the red zone, let's say, if its heritage is in the affected area or in the heart of the emergency affected area, then maybe it can happen that people who are caring for heritage themselves need help and cannot provide that effective first aid in that moment of emergency. In that moment, then they are dependent on emergency response responders, military, or the civil defense, or even volunteers. So in order for volunteers to be more effective, to understand how to safeguard heritage, how to take care of objects or buildings in the moment of disaster, they have to be given some kind of prior instruction, as well as there has to be some arrangement made so that they know in the time of disaster that once they have taken care of search and rescue, they have rescued people, they can go back and then take care to secure heritage until specialized help can be brought in. So for me, this was, I think, also missing in Kerala, where the cultural heritage institutions were thinking that they can do it themselves, but the intensity of the floods was so much, and so much of the state was devastated by flood waters that access was really difficult. So how can you go and save heritage in an area which is inundated, and where you have snakes, you have reptiles around, it's dangerous, so you do not want people or cultural heritage professionals to lose their life. Whereas emergency responders had boats, had proper protective gear, and they had means to rescue heritage, but they were not aware that in the areas that they were working, there is significant cultural heritage. So, it's very simple. That's the issue at hand.
Do you think that there is some improvements in this field, judging from when you started, for example, and now?
Yes, certainly. I think now many international institutions are aware of this. And for example, just recently, last month, we were contacted by the UN Search and Rescue Group in SARAT, which is a mechanism between different countries, and they send search and rescue teams. And we were asked to make a presentation before the search and rescue teams. This was a technical meeting to explain to them how they can help in securing cultural heritage while they are protecting lives. So I think these are all very good signs. Similarly, the United Nations Institute for Disaster Risk Reduction, UNISDR, they are the ones who proposed the Sendai framework, which then member states agreed to. They have also taken up the cause of cultural heritage. World Bank has taken up the cause of cultural heritage. UNDP has taken cause of cultural heritage. So many international organizations are recognizing. And then governments too. So the government of Italy is, I think, one of the few governments that has recognized cultural heritage and has formally included it in their emergency management or emergency response system. Similarly, there are other governments that are making such efforts. So I think the field is changing rapidly and fast. But we also need to build capacity and increase field presence of cultural heritage people so that they can work in the event of an emergency.
Yeah, it seems like the field is improving, but on the other hand, there are more natural disasters compared
To contend with. So I think in this sense, we also have to understand and change a little bit because of the impacts of climate change. We not only have to now respond, but we have to build back better. And that means we cannot restore heritage to the previous stage. We have to, in our response strategies, we have to also mix adaptation. So again, an example is if we are thinking about improving, giving help to craftsmen, then we have to make sure that when craftsmen, we are giving them help to recover from a disaster, then in that help we are also integrating some risk reduction so that they do not endanger themselves or they do not have unsafe practices of working. And the same applies to heritage buildings. When we restore them after a disaster or reconstruct them after first aid, we should take care to introduce mitigation as well as adaptation because the climate is changing, and we have to so not only now think about just response or risk reduction, but we also have to think about adaptation.